Hello, YouTube. It's been a minute. This is what you call it. DJ J from channel Which J Today, coming back to you with another video. And this will be a response video to Nick Blaze Right. You're probably wondering, it's a week, almost a week. Why are you just now saying something? It took you that long to figure something to say. It's actually that I'm dealing with some medical issues right now. My head is actually still pounding right now. And I'm probably not going to be able to do anything on Monday. And depending on how bad it's going to be when I go to the doctor on Monday, I might not be able to say nothing for a couple of days then. But it's feeling well enough now to where I can make a video. Now, I was going to actually take his audio, that video that he did, and just go point by point responding. But I actually can't do that because it wound up being around. It was either 2 hours or it was approaching 2 hours, and I looked and I was like, this probably could take a whole nother, it could take an hour and a whole change. So I was like, nah, this isn't gonna work. So I'm just gonna play my clips just like he did, and then I'm just gonna speak my piece.
We are talking about the real life game of Monopoly, which is what we are living every day in Western society in a capitalist system. Because you see, we're talking about real money. We are talking about a real cultural legacy. And that is the part that offended me. For those of you who are unaware here, last week, now for those of you who are unaware, Ebro, DJ up there on Hot 97 out of New York, put up a post on Twitter about Eminem, in which he said, and I'm quoting him now, Eminem treats rap how black folks have had to treat life. Be 5 times better, work 5 times harder than everyone, and still not necessarily get respect. So, in an absolutely reprehensible statement, Ebro is comparing Eminem to Eminem's work ethic to black people's condition. Think about that for a few moments. You just compared what you claim is Eminem's work ethic. First of all, how do you measure be 5 times better? What makes him 5 times better? Quote, 5 times better and work 5 times harder than everyone else. I can show you demonstrably where black people have to work 5 times harder, 10 times harder, just to get equal, not even respect, but compensation. Remember, Serena Williams is the best tennis player in the world, and yet she is routinely underpaid compared to other white women in the sport. White women like Maria Sharapova, who she routinely beat, and yet when it's time to hand out the money, the society gathers together and says, your superior performance means nothing. We are playing the game along racial lines. That's not black society. It is white society that has historically and routinely still continuously to this day says, we play the game along racial lines. And it seems there's a lot of black folk who don't get that, particularly up there in that New York market, but I won't confine it to just there. But there's a lot of black folk who are eager to be the saps and the suckers and the hoes of the society. A society that is telling you when it's time to hand out the money, recognition, status, and everything else, we're playing along racial lines. And then niggas come up talking about, well, we don't want to do that there. I mean, everybody deserves respect. We are playing against other people who are fighting us along ethnic and racial lines, and have brainwashed subservient-minded cornball-ass niggas into sitting up here endorsing to the rest of us that there is no racial competition going on. That's the problem with Ebro, and I'm not going to get into his lineage. I'm not going to get into being mixed. I'm not going to make my statements based on that. I know some people have wanted to here. I'm not going to do that. I'm not even going to make these arguments based upon his lineage. I'm going to make these arguments based upon the fact that in the current society in which we live, it is an established fact. This is not an opinion. This is not subjective. It is an established fact. White people reserve the greater part of the rewards for themselves, even when black people are the ones who generate the profits. The white folks say the lion's share will always go to us, whether we earned it or not. So what I'm telling you is that it is simply insane and irrational of us to keep entering into arenas where we did all the work, we did all the building, and then we go look for the nearest white person that we can invite in, so that they can walk away with all the benefits. You want to talk about being 5 times better and working 5 times harder? Working 5 times harder is being Africa Bambaataa in the dingy clubs and the skating rinks. Working 5 times harder is being Kool Herc and Curtis Blow in the basements and in the parks and the house parties when there was no money to be made. That's working 5 times harder. And you're going to sit up here and put on the hair shirt until the cry me a damn river because some privileged white male has shown us in the room. Keep it real. You guys are really proving what I've always said about you gotta watch these old niggas. You gotta watch them because they sold their souls a long damn time ago. And now they're here to do their corporate master's bidding and to mislead everyone else. And I'm gonna get to Rakim. I'm gonna get to you too. I'm going to get to you too. Don't worry, yours is coming here shortly. And for anybody else trying to co-sign Eminem, how is it you're off code? What is the problem? You don't get to be a rapper based on American credentials. You get to be certified as a rapper based upon your black credentials. Let us never forget that it was these same white record companies that were saying in the 80s when Run DMC and LL Cool J, and even as late as 1991, 92, they were saying that rap was a fad, that eventually it was going to burn out and go the way of disco. That's what they were saying. Even as records were going double and triple platinum. LL Cool J, NWA, Too Short, Ruthless Records, even as they were, MC Hammer even. By the time remember Hammer had that song, they said we wouldn't make it, the rap wouldn't last on his song, Let's Get It Started. Yeah, he was there for the whole time with them saying it's not going to make it. We don't need to put any major sponsorship. We don't need to pay anything. And the brothers were like, that's okay. We're going to get paid regardless. Whether it's out of the trunk of a car or whether it's out of Sam Goodies, we're getting paid regardless. We built this from the soil. And once they realized the rap wasn't going to evaporate, or once they wanted to hedge their bets, they immediately began trying to infiltrate it with one of their own. That's where you get the Vanilla Ices from, but Vanilla Ice wasn't the only one. Vanilla Ice, Terry B, Everlast. We can go down the list. Vanilla Ice was far from the only one. Far from it. He was the biggest one at that time. And remember, it was a black rapper, Chocolate, who wrote that, but that doesn't matter to these niggas. So now you have the whitewashing of history, where there were actually jackasses on my Twitter talking about Eminem was the first big rapper. He was the first one selling out arenas around the world. Now, you got to be something like 12 years old if you truly believe that Eminem, your frame of reference is Eminem was the first big rapper and the first one to sell out an arena. Your frame of reference, you must be about 12 or 15 years old. But what this tells you is that this is a fundamental failure by the old niggas like Ebro, the DJs. The DJs are supposed to be the gatekeepers. They are supposed to be the protectors of the realm. They're supposed to be the holders of the legacy, who say that this is what truly constitutes what rap is, because I've been there from the beginning. I've been there from its stride. This is what's legit. That's the purpose of the DJ. We don't really have that anymore. With the possible exception of Funkmaster Flex, we don't really have that anymore. Them old dudes from 20, 30 years ago, all of them done sold their damn souls. And they're repeating what the record labels and what the white corporations have told them. And the white corporations told them Eminem is the guy. And if you undermine his credibility, you better watch out. He is the only wedge that we have because Andre Young, i.e. Dr. Dre, expended all of his social capital and street credibility and dropped it all on this cornball from the Midwest. And if Dre wasn't willing to sacrifice his credibility for Eminem, we'd be talking about Eminem the same way that we talk about Terry B. That's what would have happened. Without Dre, there is no Eminem because his, quote, rapping ability wasn't that significant. And the protectors of the realm have sold out the children so he can get a paycheck for himself. He's not telling the children that this is a black man's game. They're telling them what their master said. Oh, you can't say it belongs to black people. You have to say this is an American thing, that this belongs to all Americans. Please remember, it was your white Americans who were condemning NWA and Public Enemy for saying fight the power and F the police. No, this is not an American thing. It didn't come from America. It came from black people in America. That tells me how pathetically and grossly ignorant most of these millennials are today, because the DJs who were supposed to make sure that they had the proper cultural teaching haven't given them that. They're telling you being able to rhyme some words is the same as rapping. They're not telling these young people that there is a cultural legacy to rap that simply cannot be imitated nor duplicated. So we can't keep these young cats on code because the old niggas keep butt dancing and selling out everybody. Now, these white kids, their elders are always on code. These old niggas are the first to go against the grain on black folk. Hey, you remember when Eminem first came out and he made that cornball ass song? Well, the first time that he actually talked about something that wasn't cornball, he was talking about black bees and hoes because a black female broke up with him. So as soon as you didn't do what he wanted, you was bees and hoes. Now, Ebro isn't educating you on that. But then again, he sold his soul a long time ago. But he's not educating you on that. Now, they've been sitting up here for days now talking about that phony ass rape story about Kobe Bryant, which was bullcrap. What Eminem did, we got that on tape. We got documentation of what he said. They don't want to bring that up now, though. All of a sudden, people they want to give that a pass. So when it comes to black people, everything can be used against you, even if it's false, forever. But if you're white, black folk run up and say, oh, no, we don't need to do that. Even if the person is gentrifying you. But yeah, Eminem, when he first came out, that's how he hit the scene. And clearly Dre didn't care about that very much. That's a very damning commentary on you, Dre, by the way. Very damning commentary on you. But I want to guide your eyes to something different. When Eminem started making his rap videos, did Eminem put black women in them? Now, I talked about this years ago. Ebro ain't said nothing. But when Eminem got inside, did Eminem put black women in his videos? Oops, wait a minute. No. He started the whitewashing immediately. He brought in Jenna Jameson and a bunch of white women. So as soon as you let him on the inside, he did what colonizers do. But Ebro hasn't brought that up. Go ahead and go check over his videos, people. When he's laid up with them, he's got, I forget which video it was in particular. It was one with a bunch of white women crawling all over him. And it was a video that Jenna Jameson was in. I talked about this years ago. Eminem ain't got nothing for black folk. You are something that he uses to legitimize himself so he can leverage that for white power. He's got nothing for black folk. Take a look at D12 and Slaughterhouse. Ain't nobody came up out of that except him. The only person you all can name is 50 Cent, and that was because of Dre. There is nobody who's a superstar today strictly because Eminem put them on. So don't even try it. Don't even try it. When being with Dre was worn out and he wanted to start something of his own or whatever, he went and found some black folk, but ultimately, what did they all tell you? Well, once we got there, Eminem didn't really promote us. We had to get whatever we got for ourselves. Remember that rant that Joe Budden went on last year when Eminem made that song dissing him? And Joe, or was it last year or the year before last? 2019 or 2018, when Joe Budden went on that rant about Eminem. You can look it up on YouTube, and he was talking about, I had to get up and go get it for my damn self because you weren't helping us. So I had to get up and go get it on my own. You weren't helping us. Now, we all know that Dre gave Eminem hand-to-mouth feeding, but Eminem didn't do that for anybody else. He didn't do that for the rappers on his label. He didn't do that for black women. What has Eminem contributed to the culture? And when I say the culture, I'm talking about black people who built this thing. What has Eminem contributed to the founders? What has he contributed? I can show you what he's taken. I can show you what he's grifted. I can show you what he's leached. Show me what Eminem has contributed back to the ecosystem of the black culture that created this. Now, let's compare apples to apples here, and this is a good segue I want to go into. What did MC Search contribute to the culture? Well, everybody knows, you really can't say nothing about Search because you can say one thing immediately: Nas. You can look at Search and at least see at least one black person who got directly put on because of Search. And I hate to say this, but right now, Rakim, I'm going to segue from Search to Rakim because Rakim had some unkind statements to make about MC Search, but let's just be totally honest right here. Rakim, you have been promoting and defending your own gentrifier. And I'm going to say this one more time because I want to make it very clear where I stand, and I'm not speaking out of turn. Y'all got to watch these old niggas we've been holding them up as icons, and in reality, they just the old niggas minding the store. Just because you are talented and capable doesn't mean that you're a stand-up guy. It doesn't mean that you're a paragon of virtue. It doesn't mean that you're a profile in character. And Rakim, I just got to say it outright. You got white folk walking up to your ass in your face, nigga, talking about Eminem is the greatest of all time. You had more smoke for Search when he talked about how Leor Cohen had asked him to write a song for you. You got more smoke for MC Search. And the guy who interviewed you took it out of context. He didn't even say it right. Search didn't say he had to write something for you. He said he was asked to by Leor Cohen and that was offered. But regardless, you gave a way more vigorous response to that than you did for the white boy that folk have been saying, we don't need, Rakim's not the greatest of all time. And understand something, that's what the young whites wanted. Young white people, I told y'all, they're playing the race game. Post-racial America, my ass, they're playing the race game. By the very virtue of the fact that you are saying that Eminem got album sales that black rappers couldn't, you're saying that he brought in a bunch of racist white folk who were unwilling to accept rap if there was a black face on it. So they need you to remove Rakim. That they're only willing to accept rap if you are willing to say that rap has been transformed into a white man's game. Now we'll accept rap music. So we'll accept rap music so long as we don't have to accept the blacks who created it. And Rakim played along. Rakim is playing along now. I am ashamed and sad to say. Rakim, we've been defending you as the greatest of all time, and now you done come out here and kicked us in the side of the head talking about how great Eminem is. We don't have the standing to defend you anymore. You just told them that they were right. That Eminem is on your level. You needed to protect the cultural legacy because, nigga, you're supposed to be protecting your own. The problem with fellas like Rakim is they bought into the praise they got from Linkin Park. I saw that song that Rakim did years ago with Linkin Park, and that was him saying, okay, finally I've been acknowledged outside of black society. Rakim was never no big selling artist like that. We saw him as the standard against which all others were measured. But white society pretended your ass didn't exist, dude. God MC? They never treated you like that. So when they actually did acknowledge you, he done bought into it. Now he's giving passes all over the place. Since clearly I need to explain this to you in elementary school terms, what does the world need Rakim for if Eminem is the greatest of all time? What did Rakim do all of that for if we're just going to come along and say that some carpet-bagging interloper is on his level? And let's be very, very clear. Niggas are sitting around saying dumb stuff, talking about, oh, Rakim just meant that Eminem is a good lyricist. He wasn't elevating Eminem like that. It ain't that serious. Go on these white kids' pages. Go on my Twitter page and look at what these white kids are saying. Rakim, while you talking about you're colorblind. Well, guess what, dummy? The folk promoting Eminem and saying, the white folk are saying, oh, look, Rakim says this about Eminem. They're not colorblind. They are using your statements to delegitimize you as the greatest of all time. On these white kids' pages, they're saying that Eminem is the greatest ever. Just that quickly, all you colorblind niggas got shown for the idiots you are. These white kids are saying Eminem is the greatest ever. Just that quickly, they said, yeah, boot Rakim's ass out of here. We know you black folks say that, but we are colonizing this music, and when it's over, the world will believe that we created it. Why do you think it's so necessary for them to keep saying rap? I mean, it's the year 2019. We're talking about 30 years. 30 years since NWA. 40 years since Africa Bambaataa and the Sugar Hill Gang and all that. We're talking 40 years later, 30 years since NWA and all the platinum albums that they had. And of course, 35 or 36 since LL Cool J was going platinum. And of course, Run DMC. So Run DMC, LL Cool J, all of this was back in the early 80s. Going platinum in the early 80s. And you got white kids today and a bunch of Negroes talking about rap music wasn't really big until 20 years later and Marshall Mathers. They're telling y'all that Death Row and Ruthless Records and MC Hammer and the DOC and DJ Quick and Too Short, all of that didn't matter. Tone Loc and Young MC, all of that didn't matter. None of that was relevant. It wasn't until one of our people, Marshall Mathers, it wasn't until he showed up that rap music became big. People, I remember back in the early 90s when they were talking on CBS Evening News and they were lamenting that rap music was outselling everything, including country music, and some dumbass jumped on my Twitter page talking about it wasn't until Eminem that rap music was outselling country music and everything else. So what this tells you is that individuals like Ebro have miseducated the masses. And then you have to ask, what's his motive? But hell, he's got Rakim providing cover for him. Rakim has willfully sacrificed his own legacy. People, you can't allow carpetbaggers or infiltrators in the door to any degree. The moment you give him a legitimate seat at the table, he's going to start saying that this is his house. Lord Jamar was quite right. White people are guests in the house of hip hop, and quite frankly, they've started to turn into invaders, home invaders in the house of hip hop. Because I asked the question, what have we gained by all of this shameless, feckless, gutless, Rakim, spineless, brainless promotion of Emmett Marshall Mathers? What have we gained as a result of that? What do black people have to show for it? Some moron tried to say higher record sales. Black people ain't selling no more records today because of Eminem's presence. He didn't spread the field and increase record sales for us. He increased them for himself. But we already knew that was the case. White people have a racial code. The very same song that they wouldn't buy from your black ass, put a white person in front of it, all of a sudden they're doing their little afflicted ass, broke hip, diddy bop dance. All of a sudden it becomes that. The same song that they told you was one hit. Remember back in the hell are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? No, you only knew of one song by Sir Mix-a-Lot. You only acknowledge one. His people know better. And this is why it is dangerous to put our legacy in white society's hands. You put it in their hands, first they're going to minimize it. And then next, they're going to erase it. If they get control of your legacy, first they minimize you. Rap wasn't that big. It was still just house music. Yeah, there were a couple of minor hits, but all of those people were one-hit wonders. But what about Tupac and NWA and Ruthless Records and Ice Cube? Yeah. I mean, those were just flukes. You do realize that's what they're saying, right? They're saying that Marshall Mathers is the only consistent hit in rap music. That's what these white folk are saying. Don't believe me? Go on Twitter. Go on my Twitter post. They're saying that. That rap music wasn't big before Marshall Mathers. They're literally saying that. I retweeted some of them. One jackass talking about Marshall Mathers. We didn't have rap playing in arenas before Marshall Mathers. It's sitting there on my Twitter page. I'm not making this up. If you allow them an inch, they gonna take your ass. And at his age, at the age that Rakim is at right now, he shouldn't have to be told this. But he does. And the only thing I can really assume is that he's just an old broken nigga. I mean, can we just say it like it is? These old niggas, the older they got, man, they ain't got no fight left in them. Nigga don't be talking big to certain. You were struggling to pay child support. You know why? Because the white boys that y'all allowed into the game took all the damn money that you should have been getting or that you could have been getting if you had stood strong. If you want to know where your child support money went, Rakim, go ask Eminem. Go ask all them white boys that y'all sitting up here big upping and bragging on all the damn time. Go ask them where your residuals came from. When they go into these movies and they play like these songs in these movies that they consider iconic, everything that Rakim has done should be iconic, but it isn't. So the movie companies, nobody is licensing his music for major movies because they brought in these white boys to make sure their stuff is circulated. Follow the Leader. That's a song that begs to be licensed for millions of dollars. You can't get it. Rakim still has to do concerts and small shows because you let the carpetbaggers in, and when you legitimize them, you gave the dominant society permission to overlook you. And now that you legitimized them, the dominant society said, see, we ain't did no harm. How are you going to stand? Even he says that Eminem is great. And I say Eminem isn't just great, he's the greatest of all time. Even Rakim says he's legitimate. That was the price you pay for legitimizing Eminem, Rakim. Dre got $1 billion. What did you get for legitimizing him? Other dumb niggas will talk about, well, he increased sales because of crossover. First of all, jackass, you clearly don't know the definition of the word crossover. You can't claim that this person is a genuine holder of the culture and then say he did it by way of crossing it over. By definition, to cross something over means that you have transported it from where it used to be to some foreign location. You can't claim that rap is still legitimate and genuine when you have specifically given it to someone for the express purposes of crossing it over into something else, into somewhere else. We need to have people coming to us. In anime, Japanese culture is very good about this. They don't give up a damn thing. You have never seen a Japanese movie where they hold up a black person as a superior martial artist, even though we all know that the greatest fighters in the world have, since the very beginning, have all been black men. All. A-L-L. All. Every single one, including the progenitor of Asian so-called martial arts itself. All of them. A-L-L. All. Every single one. The only time that there was not a black champion is when white folk banned black folk from being able to fight. But when you turn on your Asian movies, they don't present black men as the best of the best. Not Michael Jai White. Hell, what was that? That Ip Man movie, I think it was, with Donnie Yen and Mike Tyson. You got Mike Tyson in the damn movie fighting Donnie Yen. He's like the boss of this warehouse or something. But the fight is inconclusive. Just out of nowhere, Tyson's trying to knock him out and every damn thing else. And then just out of nowhere, Tyson suddenly stops fighting. So the Chinese, they were willing to acknowledge Mike Tyson's presence, but they were not about to sit up here and show Mike Tyson beating the brakes off of Donnie Yen and conclusively beating him, even though Donnie Yen is an actor. He's a fine kung fu martial artist. He's fine at that stuff what they do for movies, but Mike's the real deal. But they were not, it would just absolutely be ridiculous to show Donnie Yen beating Mike Tyson, so they couldn't do that. So the best they did was just make it inconclusive. Oh, Tyson just stops fighting. This is how far these people are willing to go. They are not going to hand over their cultural legacy to outsiders. They're not gonna do it. They're not. And it's a shame that we have so many ass-kissing, inferiority complex burden Negroes who are eager to hand over their legacy When you can't get the residuals in a few years here because nobody's really selling you stuff like that, and you still got to do shows and still got to tour to keep the money coming in while these white boys are eating off of residuals, it's because you invited them in, which gave them permission to remove you. You thought, Rakim and friends thought they were inviting in a partnership. No, you were inviting in a dictatorship. And another thing, the miseducation of the music business continues to record sales. People, when NWA sold 2 million albums in the first week, those were 2 million legitimate album sales. You didn't have any of this, 100 streams counts as one song sold. You didn't have any of that crap. You actually had to sell an album for the album sale to count. Eminem has never had to do that. Ebro. Eminem has never had to do that. Rakim, you had to do it. And if you had ever, brothers and sisters, could you imagine what Elvis Presley's estate would have said if Michael Jackson, I'm going there. If Michael Jackson had said, well, I actually sold 400 million copies because if you count streams and how many times the video Thriller was watched and how many times that Billie Jean was watched, well, every 100 times counts as a sale. So if you count that, then I sold like 400 million copies. Do you think white society ever would have stood for that? Do you think they ever would have even allowed that metric to come into the discussion? They need to have these phony ass metrics and these phony ass rules made up because they can't compete otherwise. On a level playing field, they lose. So they've always got to have phony rules tossed in to make sure they win. But if Rakim had said, well, if you count video views and whatnot, I've sold a few million. Eminem's people, if Rakim ever tries that, Eminem's people will be very quick to put him back in his place. Wouldn't have the big three and those Friday movies and the things he's done with it. And by the way, unlike Tyler Perry, you can name other black folk who got made megastars because they were in the Friday movies. You can't name anybody that Tyler Perry made a star of. You know folk who got made because of being around Ice Cube. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that.
Nick Blaze Wright has talked about how I don't know why Nick Cannon was working with Suge Knight on one of the music videos because Suge Knight's got a checkered history himself. That's something like 30, 40 years ago. We're talking about something in the last 1-2 decades, and honestly, the last 2 decades because of the Mariah thing. And he has been doing racism as a signed artist, not even before he was signed. Not to mention, his stuff, the things that Suge Knight has done wasn't damaging to the culture of hip-hop. What Eminem is doing is damaging to the culture of hip-hop. Again, the authority was saying, how much longer are we going to sell hip-hop records with just black people on it? How much longer are we going to be able to do that? We're not going to be able to do that for much longer. Eminem has damaged the culture. A few things to some artists is not the culture. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily justifies what he's done, but how come every time that we start talking about somebody else and what they've done, well, all of a sudden, instead of Eminem specifically, how come we have to talk about everybody else except the situation? He already apologized for this. No, he apologized for 1, maybe 2 specific instances. He has a long history of doing this. In his video, he also establishes that I don't necessarily think that Eminem's the greatest rapper of all time. Which, okay, fine. He didn't fully flesh that out in the video before, so. But since he's saying that, okay, sorry, I didn't know that's what you were saying. You never really fleshed out that idea. In the video, Nick Blaze Wright has also responded to me when I was talking about how if you can't respond to somebody, then you can't call them out. That's like Jay-Z and Nas, and if Jay-Z was like, I got more money than you and I don't have to respond. Nick Blaze Wright's defense is, that's kind of Eminem's whole persona anyway. He calls out people all the time, and they respond. And he gives a list of names, and it says cannabis. Every time M has called out cannabis has responded and said, instead of sitting here talking about doing all this sneak dissing, or in some cases straight up calling my name. But instead of doing all this sneak dissing, let's have a rap battle, a real rap battle, and then see who's the best. Because actually, they did have a rap battle before in the past, and the Cannabis is one. It wasn't just Juice that Cannabis. I mean that M lost to. That's a battle that nobody likes to talk about, because I it was in the early days uh, of Cannabis' career. He didn't necessarily have money like that, I'm assuming. So Interscope got some contracts, told everybody to shut up about this, don't mention it, and everybody signed. But anyway, the reason why nobody's really responding to what you call it, Eminem outside of Cannabis, is because they can't. They're either pop stars, actors, or they're rappers that are low level. Like, they're not really lyrical miracle. That's not their bread and butter. Like Benzino and Ja Rule, they weren't about the lyrics. So those are the people that he bothered because those were easy to get away with. He thought Everlast wasn't going to say anything, and when he did say something, he brought all the D12 because this dude's a coward. He's scared. And I mean, Nick Cannon did say something about that then when it happened. He had a response on the net. He said, there will be retribution for this. And I do think that this guy is racist. He said that then. And there was actually a minute diss song against M. It's actually floating on my playlist. And that response that Nick Cannon did on the internet to M is on my playlist as well. It's on that one's on the Eminem versus the World series. There's about like 3-4 videos of that. It's in one of those. And the actual response, that's buried somewhere in that playlist. There's 100 videos on there at least. So I might get it and put it on this video. I might not. I don't know. But Nick actually did respond. I think Nick didn't want to actually battle then because his friends and family told him, you better not say anything now, because if you do, he's going to have your career. He's going to, what you call it, Interscope is going to get involved and have your career be mediocre for the rest of your time on in media. So he didn't do anything big. But he put out that minute video, and then he started putting himself together to put himself in a position where he could actually face him. He thought he was good, but obviously with those phone calls that was made and made Nick Cannon talk about, you know what, I'm not beefing with him no more. He wasn't in that good of a shape. Benzino has actually responded to M numerous amount of times. It's just not in song form. And what you call it, Mariah Carey responded to him. Actually, this is a bit of history here. Mariah Carey was not bothering M and Obsessed, which the song that M responded to. The guy that she was responding to was actually in jail, and he was actually stalking her. The dude's in jail for that now. He might be in jail for it today. But Mariah did make a diss song to M that he never responded to. Now, I might actually should put the link to which song that was before that name of that song in the video, but that's in my playlist too. So I'll have to go dig that out. But M actually didn't respond to Mariah Carey when Mariah Carey actually dissed M. In the video, he also talks about how, well, Nick doing this, he did this because he needed clicks, he wanted views, he wanted to get his name out there. Well, that's actually why Fem dissed the people he dissed. That's why he dissed these pop stars. That's why he came out with a split personality dissing people. That's why he was dissing celebrities and pop stars. That's why he was running around here dissing politicians that just finished dying. He did a whole lot of thirsty clout chasing things. It's a problem when Nick supposedly does it, but when M does it, it's cool. Nobody in rap came up with a split personality before him, which, by the way, that was just a fad, because nobody has kept that up except maybe Cage, maybe. But nobody's kept, but that's a fad that he made. What you call it? He was come. Nobody in rap was running around here dissing pop stars, actors, politicians. Nobody was doing that because they thought that you wasn't a real MC if you was doing attacking people that can't defend themselves. And if you what you call it, you're not supposed to be dissing people. You can't be talking about I'm a lyrical miracle guy running around here dissing people that was below you, that really weren't all that lyrical. Remember, 50 Cent, Jadakiss and 50 Cent. Jadakiss didn't come after 50 Cent. 50 Cent came out of after Jadakiss. Same thing with DMX and Nas. What you call it? Nas didn't come after 50. DMX didn't come after 50. 50 went after them and they attacked. Oh yeah, and also in the video he mentioned about how Nas was what you call it, dissing them too. Well, the reason why he did that was because he thought that M was after this guy's career because he thought that he was being played by him. That's why he did that. Also, it was a bunch of subliminal disses, the same way DMX did. So nobody actually knows about that situation. That's why Nas is able to live. And even with that being said, Nas is still an obscure person. He doesn't have the same platform that Kanye West, Jay-Z, anybody has. So yes, that's why Nas was able to do that and live. And also about Hip Hop Universe. Hip Hop Universe, I don't take his opinion seriously at all. This dude's not black. I listen to this dude speak. This dude's from across the waters or something. I don't think English is his first language. There's a couple of guys that be sounding foreign. And then you listen to a couple of their videos. They'd be like, yeah, English isn't my first language. I actually learned English because of rap and whatnot. And they're strictly a lyrical person that they supposedly anyway. I was looking at the video. Two, three videos that Hip Hop Universe was doing. And I saw that this guy was actually being biased because I know that he knows a lot of stuff that I'm saying because he was on those same platforms. He was on Carcino for Life, talking to Carcino about hip hop. This dude and was debating with him about some hip hop stuff. This dude can't refute what Carcino was saying. But instead of going with that, he'll go make up his own story or follow the mainstream narrative. So I actually don't deal with Hip Hop Universe anymore. And Shaq Media X, I don't know who that is. I've spent a long time looking for this dude. I don't see him at all. The closest thing to that is Shaq No Life. And Shaq don't get no love for me. This dude be cooning. Straight up. Now, I might apologize to calling you Coonan. I've listened to enough of his dude's stuff. He's fleshed out his stuff. This dude, there's no redemption for that dude in my eyes. And I just remembered this, but again about what you call it, Nick Cannon with the it's a bad look that he mentioned Eminem's past when he was dissing him. Why is that a problem? This is a once again when a white boy walks into the room, the rules have to change because had M been mentioning the similar stuff about Nick, that's just as far back in his past and just as damaging. We wouldn't have been talking about how, oh, M, this is a bad look. As a matter of fact, M has been given a pass for a lot of things that had any other rapper had done, they would be out of a career. Case in point, just compare Eminem and DaBaby. DaBaby hasn't said a tenth about the gay community in terms of what M does in comparison to M and what he said. But what happened to DaBaby versus M? DaBaby lost his record deal. He was an unsigned artist for a minute. They canceled his contract. M just had to apologize and just did a song with what was that gay dude? I can't think of that gay dude, but he just did a song with that gay old dude, and his reputation was restored. And actually, it's that same gay dude that was criticizing the baby for those statements, which is why the black community was mad at him. I can't think of his name, but it was some white dude. It was a white gay dude that was some singer that was from across the pond, I believe. He criticized the baby for doing that, talking about how that was very homophobic and damaging. This could cause violence out in the streets. Meanwhile, he just said that you guys be get gay dudes be getting head in a parking lot. Well, I mean, how's that so damaging? The dude M was telling people to whatchamacallit, remember, tie strings to your dicks and jump. And I think Carcino was like, they still haven't censored one of these guys' songs. I mean, one of M's songs. I'm surprised where M was like, there's a reason why a man shouldn't be kissing on another man. M has said these things. These things are homophobic. And knowing M, remember, this is the guy that was making fun of the Columbine massacre. He says some harsh stuff. It was, and if you think Columbine massacre was harsh, the stuff that he said about the gay community was just as harsh. M has overall gotten a pass for that. The baby had to do a whole lot more, went through a whole lot more before he was forgiven for that. Again, there's double standards for these white people in the industry versus the blacks in the industry. And another point that Blaze says is that, well, Nick isn't Jay-Z or Nas. That doesn't matter. Nick is a rapper. M is a rapper. There are rules that you follow as a rapper. And if you don't follow these rules, you lose a lot of respect. That, or you have to do a lot of culturally relevant things to sidestep the fact that you're doing a bunch of stuff that's damaging to the culture, or just violating the rules of the culture. Look at Jay-Z and Diddy. They have done a lot of things that have either been damaging, things that are make them straight up look like a hole because they're running around here blackballing people. The reason why these guys are still relevant is because they did things that were culturally relevant still to this day. That's the only way that you sidestep that. And M simply hasn't done anything culturally relevant. The closest thing was Stan and the Eminem show. Then there might be like a couple of other singles here and there, but overall, in comparison, in comparison to the other artists, the artists that I mentioned, Nas and Jay Z, Nas and Jay Z, Jay Z and Diddy, they're more culturally relevant. In many ways, actually, Nick Cannon is more culturally relevant. It's just that it's not in music; it's in the movies. Because while his movies aren't exactly quite like the TV show The Parkers or Girlfriends, he's done things that are culturally relevant to this day. I think what's Love got to do to it is a culturally relevant movie to this day, which is what will protect you if you violate rules to a certain extent. M simply hasn't done that, so he doesn't get that protection. And the idea that this dude is saying that, oh well, Nick Cannon didn't respond to all these times that M called him out, it has me thinking. In the music video, he had Eminem interviews playing, where he was like, hey, so you're gonna battle Nick Cannon because Nick Cannon wants to battle you in some sort of 8 Mile battle or something like that was said in the interview. And M was like, well, I didn't know Nick was gonna wild out like that. I said it. I'm not gonna respond to Nick. So he was running away even then. Oh boy, he was running even then. Not to mention the reason why he got Suge on the record is because Suge has had beef with M2. Suge was actually going to release those audios, some more audio on Eminem with his racist past. What happened was Interscope got wind of it and they shut Suge down. As well as I think Suge tried to kill Eminem. That's the word on the street. Suge Knight also raided D12's video shoot. So I mean, Nick Cannon, so Suge Knight and Eminem have history. Also, Suge represents something that should be feared. Cause I mean, that dude's like one of the most feared black men. In the video, he also talks about how, yes, I didn't say that. Yeah, I talked about it. That he said that he's not the GOAT. He's one of the GOAT. He's in my top 10, but not my top 5. Well, yeah, you didn't flesh that out enough. He said Joyner, Dax, J. Cole, Kendrick was a part of his top 5. Well, that when he said that, that made me pause and be like, okay, this guy's not a coon. He's just once again uneducated in hip hop. He seems to be very naive. Because if that's your reference of the best, that sounds like you really haven't consumed enough, as I've said. Lyrically, even on like every way that you can compare this. Lyrically, the flow. I mean, unless you want to talk about album sales and single sales, but then again, I'm quite sure that there's rappers that sold more than them. Cause what you call it? I mean, MC Hammer, he's gone diamond. Michael Jackson was a hip hop artist. He went diamond 36 times for one single. It was for one single, and he went diamond 36 times. So, what you call it? Yeah, flow, your rhyme style. Terms of the elements of hip hop you use and how well they're used. That could go to Pac, because Pac could dance and stuff. Heck, that could go to Vanilla Ice, because what could Vanilla Ice do? He could dance, he could do graffiti, he could beatbox. There's a plenty of people better than the people that he's mentioned that belong in a top 5, top 10. Now, if you want to talk about personal favorites, then that's something different once again. Oh yeah, and I've ever said this before. Yeah. As for the coon thing, I think I should apologize for that, because obviously that's not it. At least from the rap, at least from these two 1-2 rap videos that you made. What seems to be is that you're just uneducated. Again, this is what I have to keep on telling people. He's talking about how, well, Nick Cannon's rap career wasn't that significant. Your popularity doesn't go to where you place into the rap books. How popular was Rakim? How popular Rakim is today? He's still one of the fathers of rap. How popular is what you call it, Africa Bambaataa? He is still one of the fathers of rap. So this whole, he wasn't that popular. He's not that iconic. His reach wasn't all that far. What have you done in the rap community? Your record sales, your popularity doesn't mean anything. This is what I keep on having to tell people. Rakim, Bambaataa, these people shouldn't have even be acknowledged then, if that's what we're going by. He also has a problem with that, me saying that, oh, well, I didn't say that Nick Cannon was what you call it, the face of rap. Or that rap was, what you call it, rap was his. I'm saying that him as a representative. First off, again, to this day, you still haven't looked at the original video. You still haven't. You've reacted to the, what you call it, 30-second clip of my video, and then the rest of Zeno's video. You haven't reacted to the whole video that I've made. To this day, you still haven't. Also, the idea that, oh, well, there's been plenty of black rappers that have come out and been talking about, I'm the best of all time, I'm the greatest and whatnot. They're not saying that in terms of culturally replacing black people. They're not playing on the lines of race. White people are. When white people come into the industry and say that, they're replacing the black people who actually are better. Not to mention, when black artists say that, they're usually checked by other artists. Usually they are. In most cases. There's very few cases where that doesn't happen, where they don't get checked. And if they don't get checked, it's usually because they're not in the lane. that a lot of these other artists are in. Like if I make party music and I'm talking about I'm the greatest of all time, I'm the face of rap, people are just gonna laugh and go on about their business, which is what they did to M for a long time until they started realizing, whoa, this dude's taking over. What the heck is going on here? Because they didn't take M seriously. M was a jokey, rappity rap rapper, which is why he had to sign 50 Cent in order to get involved with his beef. And he also starts naming, oh, well, what about Snoop Dogg and this one and that one? Well, people like Snoop Dogg, every time he was called out, he responded. Even to this day, might I add you, because the last beef I can remember him being in is when he was in that beef with some Shady Records artist. What was that? Yeah, Crooked I. He was beefing with Crooked I, and he went to war with him. So he's earned his stripes. He's earned the ability to say that. M hasn't. What has M done? Benzino, Ja Rule, that doesn't give you the right to be talking about I'm the best. You haven't. You have to go up at least against at least somebody like Jadakiss or somebody like Ice Cube in order for you to be like, yeah, man, I'm the best. And he hasn't done that. And as a matter of fact, Jadakiss has called M out, and M has not responded. He said, "Yeah, I can beat M easy." Said nothing. Wasn't I don't even he didn't even hear a subliminal diss. And for some reason, the dude just seemed to sideswipe my explanation about why the diss track was the way it was. It's because because M was being throwing soft hands at this dude, because he was waiting for M to actually respond. As I said with the stepdad thing, that was something that he threw that shot out there to let M know that I know things about you and I'm waiting for you to respond. And as I said before, there's proof that he knows this because he was in talks with a YouTuber that knew this. Well, he's a YouTuber now, but he was in talks with a person that knew this. And then, as I said in my playlist, there's articles confirming what this guy was saying about the whole stepdad thing and about how, oh, well, actually, I had my dad that was able to take care of me, and I wasn't able to see him thanks to my adoptive dad. He was throwing soft targets out because everybody would have denied it and M wouldn't have said nothing. Just the same thing with that gay thing. Because that was that's a real event that Nick is talking about in terms of that gay event about paying off somebody. He what you call it? Everybody denied that being real, and M just kind of sideswept it and just had one line for him. He's not trying to give it all out, because if he gives it all out, then when M finally does respond, if he responded, he would have nothing to say like that. Nick personally, anyway. The other guys would have a bunch of stuff to say because they're battle rappers, but M said, just be soft, be soft. We're gonna wait for the guy to respond. Slow and steady wins the race, and in the end, M just made phone calls. Okay, yeah, I apologize for what you call it, not fully expanding what I was talking about, because I didn't fully flesh out the idea that I was saying, where I was like, you shouldn't speak on it, or you don't have the right to speak on it because you on the culture, because you obviously don't know it. You don't necessarily have the right, but because this is America, it's a free country, you can do what you want to do technically. It's as long as you don't. I will do what I want to do until you catch me. Pretty much. That's the way of America. Pretty much. But anyway, yeah, you can do what you want to do. But just because you wasn't born in the '80s and you don't doesn't all of a sudden give you an excuse not to know about the history of hip hop and be like, I'm going to speak on it and you have to take me seriously. That's like me talking about American history, but I don't know Christopher Columbus, I don't know the founding fathers and stuff like that. But I want you to take me seriously. No, that's not how that works. Hip hop is a historical It's something culturally relevant and a very historical, rich with history that you have to know before we take you seriously. Now, and anyway, his dude's talking about how what you call it. He's I'm probably older than him. Actually, I'm younger than him. The thing is, while I'm not a hip hop historian, I am a student of hip hop history. I am learning this stuff before I talk about it. Which is why, as much as I actually like hip hop, you don't really see necessarily all that much about hip hop on my channel because I'm learning about certain things before I speak on them. Talking about how you don't know who MC Light is, how you don't know who MC Shan is, how you don't know who the real Roxanne Shante is, how you don't know who the UTFO group is, that's kind of like saying you don't know who LL Cool J is. If I sat there and said, okay, you don't deserve to know about talk about his hip hop history because you don't know who Chuck Turner is. Now, if you would have a problem with that, that's understandable. Why? Because who's Chuck Turner? He wasn't that popular. What did he do in the hip hop culture that was so breathtaking and stomping to this day? He hasn't done anything like that. As a matter of fact, Chuck Turner's a failed artist. It wasn't that he wasn't good. He's good. It's just that he just didn't make it. People didn't necessarily gravitate towards him. So for me to be like, you ought to know him in order to be speaking about hip hop would be crazy. Not know, not knowing those people who I mentioned, it's like not knowing who Queen Latifah is or Foxy Brown. That's like not what you call it, knowing about. These are people that you're supposed to know about before you start speaking on hip hop. That's why I said you shouldn't be speaking on hip hop. And well, technically, you don't have to, what you call it, follow what I'm saying. You can do what you want to do. This is America, but I don't have to take you seriously, and you won't necessarily be taken seriously in the hip hop culture. Now, you might be taken seriously by an Adam 22 or a DJ Vlad. These are people that aren't taken seriously by the culture, so you'd probably fit in right with them. But a Doggy Diamonds, a Casino for Life, the Uggs podcast, the Murder Master podcast, you're probably not going to be taken seriously with them because these are people that understand the culture. Thought crimes, you're not going to be taken seriously. These guys understand the culture and speak on the culture. I mean, how does this guy, the way that this guy talks, I don't even think that he knows who, what you call it, Sir Mix-a-Lot is. And I mean, if you look at even Roxanne Shantae's Twitter, because even she knows her worth. She's like, if you don't know who I am, you don't know hip hop. And this guy seems to be, what you call it, he likes these lyrical miracle rappers. That's who he seems to like. And he also seems to know cannabis, so he understands the lyrical miracle underground. But does he know who Vinny Paz is? Does he know who Supernatural is or Super MC? Does he know who Juice is? I mean, the last two. If you're a fan of Eminem, then you ought to know who Super MC is or Juice. Well, maybe not Super MC, because Super MC also falls under one of the many things that's exposed M over the years. Because M was actually too scared to battle Super MC. But does he know who Rhymefest is? I mean, I can go do this thing all day with the people that he ought to know. I mean, even if you're going to be a person that's supposed to have a respected opinion in hip hop, that's why people keep on crapping on DJ Academics. That's why I was like wondering what's going on. Why are you mad at this guy? I mean, what's he done? But when I start looking at the videos and they're going down the list on why they don't like him, I was like, oh, I understand now. Even Professor Black Truth had to upload a video talking about DJ Academics. It wasn't his video, but he got somebody's video from their channel and uploaded a comprehensive video on why DJ Academics shouldn't be taken seriously in hip hop. Casino for Life has made their videos talking about people like DJ Academics who don't know the culture but are sitting here profiting off of it. In many ways, DJ Academics is just as bad as the white boys in here. Just taking, eating, feeding, feasting off the culture but not giving anything back. But yeah, enough of that, because I could go all day on the things that you ought to know. The dude also wants to argue in the video about my point that I made, where I said, just because you have popularity doesn't mean you have authority. And he doesn't seem to understand that, because he argues that, well, actually, because you have popularity, that means you have authority. Just look at him. He'll even sometimes bring his lawyers into it, just like you said. I'll give you an example. We look at Ebro in the Morning. Ebro in the Morning, that podcast was actually beefing with Chuck D. Chuck D called him out. Who's more popular? Who has more money? That would be Ebro in the Morning's group. Chuck D made these guys apologize to him, though. They had to stand down because Chuck D is a cultural icon. He is a cultural leader in hip hop. You have to respect what this guy says. Just because you have popularity, just because you have money, doesn't mean that. Now, because you have popularity, you'll get more attention. And because you have a popularity, a bunch of people who don't know nothing about the culture, who are just casuals, they'll probably take your side, but the people who know the culture will rock with you. And depending on who that is, you yourself will have to apologize. Which is actually why M had to come out and apologize to Lord Jamar. That's why Ebro and the Morning Crew had to apologize to Chuck D. Blaze is also arguing against some of the rappers that I named on how they don't have a careers because of M. He's saying that, well, it's not just M. Well, to be real, it's kind of just M, though. I mean, it seems like it's not just M. It is kind of. You gotta know the backstory. Yes, Ja Rule had beef with 50. He also had beef with DMX and Jay-Z. He had beef with these people. He said he mentioned DMX and not Jay-Z. He probably doesn't know that, but he had beef with them around the same time. The thing about it is, though, Jay-Z just kind of stepped away, though. But the thing about it is, the reason why Ja had to beef with 50 Cent for as long as he did, and it was so unfair, and as well as DMX, was because of Eminem and Interscope. Eminem actually signed 50 Cent just to get involved with the Ja Rule 50 Cent beef, because he wasn't being taken as a credible MC. I might put that video onto this video, or I'll just put a link to that video. I don't know what I'll do. One of those two. Because I also have that. I actually think I uploaded that video, though. That's not just something on my playlist. I actually uploaded that. But Eminem wasn't being taken as a serious MC. He was seen as kind of like Vanilla Ice. With just that not taking, although he's not a joke like let me rephrase that. He's kind of like Vanilla Ice. The thing is, he wasn't necessarily seen as a culture vulture like Vanilla Ice, so he was still liked, but he was liked as a joke. He was liked as Weird Alkovich. You can be here, but we're not really respecting you like that. You don't have the real MC credentials. You're just the class clown that we would kind of all like to hear. He didn't want that. He wanted to be seen as a real MC. So, him and Dr. Dre got on a song. They dissed Jermaine Dupri. Jermaine Dupri looked at this and was like, huh? I don't have to respond to this. You're a joke, bro. And that made him upset. So he was like, anybody who wants to battle me, step right up and you will get hurt. I think that's that line where he was talking about, I'll give $1 million to anybody that could make me and D12 look like a fool, but I could be wrong. In the end, Cannabis did that, and M never paid Cannabis the $1 million, but I could be wrong on which song he did that on. So he looks around and sees. I think it was actually Proof that told him to do this, because some of the outsiders was like, M didn't come to this conclusion on his own. Proof told him to do this, but anyway, he came to the conclusion that I need 50 Cent and to get involved with that beef. So he signs 50 Cent. 50 Cent's already talking to the cops and all that. And so Ja Rule had some moderate legal troubles. But what really got messed up is that M wanted M in on the beef. So he got in. So Ja was like, okay, it's war. And when the M comes into the beef, it's never just Eminem. If you look over the years, it's never just Eminem, with the exception of maybe Benzino and Iggy Azalea and a couple of pop stars. But other than that, it's never just M. When M comes into the ring, it's D12. As of right now, when M comes into the ring, it's also Slaughterhouse. Because M came into the ring, he brought D12, he brought Obi Trice, he brought in Busta Rhymes, and he didn't sign DMX, but he knew that DMX and Ja Rule was having problems because DMX was jealous of Ja. So he used that to his advantage. Ja winds up beating up Proof, so M goes talks to Jimmy Iovine. Paul Rosenberg. Paul talks to Jimmy. Jimmy talks to somebody over him and gets the IRS to raid Murder Inc. and keeps Ja from releasing music. So now we got these guys being dissed, but Ja can't say nothing because he's legally tied up. And that's why it's a long pause, and then you have Blood in My Eye. And by that time, that was pretty much too late. And then shortly after that, Ja goes to jail. So yeah, it's not necessarily on the surface, it's not Eminem's fault, but behind the scenes, M is pulling a bunch of strings. Because of M, we got Murder Inc., we got the Gotti Boys, and we even got Benzino going to court fighting for their lives. The dude also refutes my statements about MGK on how, because he was like, he wasn't a full-fledged rapper, he was a rock star. Or I always saw this dude as more of a rock star than a rapper. I don't exactly have the dates of when he changed, but let's remember here, for at least 5 years, MGK and M were beefing. It was just behind the scenes. Also, I know that MGK from the get-go came in here as a rapper. Yes, he probably changed genres. I mean, obviously he's changed genres. He came in the door rapping. He was came in the door talking about, I'm an MC. Where hip-hop community is laughing at this guy, because an MC, really? You're a decent artist. You can do a freestyle. You're not an MC. You are a rapper. And honestly, that the hip hop community considers that diss track the best song of his career. And I've seen a couple of songs on par with that, but he doesn't have many. But yes, he was a rapper from the get-go. And again, this dude seems to think, this is something I've been having a problem with. He seems to think that power makes right, or might makes right. He's like, well, because I say that I don't care if Dre's worth $1 trillion. It doesn't matter. Just because, and he's like, no, it does, because you can do a bunch of things in terms of the law. I'm not talking in terms of the law. I'm talking about hip-hop culture. I'm talking about the rules of hip-hop. It doesn't matter how much money you have. I can have money to make all textbooks in the world say, well, I don't actually have the money. I'm talking theoretically. But I'm saying, if I was a trillionaire or something, which we're on the way to having. We're on the way to having a trillionaire class in America. But anyway, let's say if I had $1 trillion and I said I'm going to use my $1 trillion to make all over the world to say at all textbooks 1 + 1 = 5. Does that mean that that's the case now? No, that doesn't mean that that's the case. That just means that I use my money to make it say that. And again, when I was saying earlier with Chuck D, yes, who has more money? Is it the Ebro in the morning or is it Chuck D? I would say Ebro in the morning, but who had to apologize to who? Because we're talking cultural. We're talking about the rules of hip hop. We're not talking about what's your bankroll. This also reminds me of the Dapper Dan situation. When you remember, like when Gucci was copying Dapper Dan's designs and the culture got behind him, Dapper Dan was broke. Dapper Dan was broke. Dapper Dan didn't have no money. But what you call it? Gucci had to wind up having to go to Dapper Dan, and Dapper Dan's getting paid off of this Gucci stuff. Now, in the end, the culture's mad at Dapper Dan because what you call it? We was like, bro, we defended you when nobody was going to defend you. You just took the deal from Gucci. What we should be doing is making our own design places and stuff. Not getting jobs from Gucci. Not getting paychecks from Gucci. Gucci shouldn't have our money. Gucci obviously doesn't respect us. This dude also disagrees with me when I was like, well, 50 Cent destroyed the rap game because you now can't make the same money in the rap game anymore because he took these brand deals. And he's like, well, that's making money. That's what that's called. And I'm not saying don't make money, but why didn't you do what Master P did? He made his own shoe. Why didn't you do what Master P did? He made his own shirt. And that didn't kill the culture. That didn't make the culture lose money. 50 Cent made the culture lose money by taking those brand deals. And also, he also argues, well, look at Kanye West. He's buying all these acres of land and is talking about don't buy all these bullcrap shirts and whatnot. If that's the case, then why are you telling people like 50 Cent to go promote that? It doesn't make any sense. If that's what you want black people to do, to buy land and whatnot, you don't encourage another rapper to go, yes, let's do all the stuff that's going to dumb down our people and put that on the big screen and say, hey, you could buy this for $5.99 if you want to look fly like me. And also, he talks about how I only say that M destroyed the culture. First off, I don't say that. Actually, I got a whole... Although I can make an argument to where he was one of the major nails in the coffin of the culture. I actually say that Lil Nas X is one of the final nails. Or he represents one of the final nails into the culture of ending the culture. That's what I say a lot. But I just said in this video that 50 Cent is one of the very detrimental to the culture. I've said that in that video. Because he talked about how, well, that's just making money. He disagrees with that being detrimental to the culture. He's like, well, that's just making money. But in the same breath, be like, we shouldn't be worried about those things. We should be worried about buying land and owning land and building the land up so we can have something for our families. I mean, that's a contradiction. Plus, you missed the point where I called out 50 Cent. And he also has a problem with me saying that, with me having a problem with white people using the N-word, specifically Eminem. And his defense is, well, black people does do it too. Because, well, and he's like, well, and there's also black people out there talking about how, hey, you shouldn't be saying the N-word because it was used to degrade and put us down. The reason why black people use the N-word is because they was like, we're going to take, instead of using this as a harmful thing, we're going to take the power out of it and use it as a positive. And it became a cultural legacy thing over the generations. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'm not going to fight a black person over that. Just because I do something doesn't mean that the next man has to do it. That doesn't mean that, well, white people have to do it. It's already been pretty much established that just because somebody black does something doesn't give you the right to do something. And I don't think that white people should be doing that, because usually when white people do be saying the N word, because I mean, let's be real, black people don't feel so harmed when and upset and sad because a white person used the N word. It's usually that when a white boy be using the N word or a white girl using the N word, there's something coming behind that. Just usually that's somebody letting you know something. Because if you look at those coons that be letting those people be talking, telling white people calling them the N word, they find them and they're like, nah, they just playing, they just joking, they my friends. They be finding themselves in whacked out situations, and because of that white person, that white boy, that white girl, and there be black people be shaking their head. You see what I told you? You see what I told you? We told you that there was going to be a problem. We told you that they were letting you know to what they were about off the get-go, which is why black people, even if they don't agree with certain people like Farrakhan, we're not going to let white people come in and be like, oh, well, I'm going to talk disrespectful and greasy and have all these controversial opinions about this guy. Because when white people, you come in there with their opinions, talking down on this a man like that and other people like that, it's because they're being funny and they're trying to criticize you and your culture without directly doing it. They be like, I'm not trying to be racist, I'm just trying to have an opinion of something. Meanwhile, that's exactly what they're trying to do. They are trying to be racist. So yeah. And I feel like he was like, well, obviously he hasn't been around black people, or a lot of black people, because, well, black people say the N word all the time. I'm not talking about black people. That's a different issue for a different time. I'm talking about white people. And there's white people in the YouTube space running around here saying the N word, talking about, well, context. What the hell? Don't give me no context. If we don't necessarily want, if people are arguing on whether or not white people in Hollywood should be doing saying the N word, or should they even be doing blackface, why the heck somebody with their danky YouTube channel should all of a sudden be doing that? I don't get that. And also, a lot of those times that people be talking about context with iDubbbz and people, there is no context. It's just weak excuses. Also, in the video, he seems to have a problem with the fact that I talked about the open letter in hip hop, where people were talking about how, hey, when I was talking about, hey, this thing was the reason why we're all in jail, the reason why the hip hop sounds the way it is, and it talks about the things that it talk about. This wasn't by accident; it was all by design. His thing is, well, if that's the case, why are we criticizing Eminem? Why aren't we going after any of these rappers? First off, we wouldn't be going. Why, yes, some of the blame would be laying at all these rappers, black rappers that were running around here promoting this, but we would be going after the execs, not the middleman. Also, I've actually, haven't I made videos talking about Young Thug? Yes, I actually have. And talked about how this dude was wrong for the things he's doing, how the things was he's not believable. I've done videos like that, criticizing people. Not to mention, I do support platforms that do that as well, like Doggy Diamonds, like Thought Crimes. And in a minute, it doesn't matter. Rappers are gonna become obsolete. Because in a minute, there's going to be no real rappers. There's going to be computerized rappers in a minute. They Thought Crimes already talked about how they have the blueprint to do that. And let's say that I never spoke about any of that, and I only made a channel dedicated to talking about the white boys in rap and Eminem specifically. There's other channels that do talk about that. It's not my responsibility to talk about every single last thing. It is my responsibility and your responsibility not to be disingenuous when I'm talking about how, hey, this guy's not the best. He's actually done damaging things for to the culture, and you're like, well, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. Actually, he's my favorite. No, not my favorite. He's one of the GOATs, objectively speaking. When no, he is not, because if you look at the metric that we judge rap music, he doesn't qualify. He only has 3-4 good albums, and people that are being nice say that. Some people say that he's actually only got one good album. It's the Eminem Show. And the only other good stuff that he has is singles. That's all. That's for the people that are actually being harsh. And again, with me giving a constructive criticism of 50 Cent, which you tried to give a rebuttal to, I actually have done things outside of criticizing M. Not to mention, I've criticized Young Thug. I've criticized him on my channel. Well, one of my channels. One of my channels. It actually might have be on my backup channel, if not on this channel, but I've done it. I've did my part. Oh yeah, and this whole thing about how why you just criticizing M and not everybody else. Well, actually, I support Benzino, and Benzino. What has Benzino been saying? That he in the beginning was saying I don't necessarily have a problem with M. What I have the problem with is the people that's promoting him. I actually would like to have a conversation with him so we could actually try to figure this out in a reasonable way. He didn't want that happening, and the people around him didn't want that happening. So that never happened. But he said that. He said that in his documentary. He said that in his interviews that he doesn't have a problem with M. M was just being a tool that was used and will be forgotten about in the end. Well, he didn't say that, but he said he was a tool that was just being used. Blaze right. When I talk about how this dude's been calling women spear chuckers, well, no, woman bees and hoes, black men spear chuckers. He's like, okay, well, what about the men that be calling the women all types of derogatory things? My response to that is, I'm tired about this. Well, what aboutism? This is what these white supremacists do when they go shoot up a bunch of black people, or the cops kill a bunch of black people, and it's like, well, what about black on black crime? That's not what we're talking about. Now, that's an issue that will need to be worked on. I'm not necessarily arguing with that, but that's a different issue for a different time that is talked about. I don't have to stop my current conversation to talk about another conversation. And just because black people do it doesn't mean that white people can come in and make money off of our dysfunction. If anybody's going to make money off of our dysfunction, it's going to be the black people of the communities of dysfunction. This dude is also like, M's brought in record sales to the hip hop. Or people didn't mess with him in the beginning, but now people do. And he did it because he got a white audience. Well, y'all say that, but it's called business. He brought in record sales. At the end of the day, no, he didn't. He brought it, as they were saying in the clips that I have played, as the clips that I got in the front of my commentary. This dude didn't bring in record sales to hip hop. He brought in record sales for himself. Also, here's a tidbit of information. He has not outsold Michael Jackson. He has actually not outsold Master P. But he's listed as the highest seller of all time, and it's a lie. And as I said before, he's getting that because, it's not that he's actually getting these sales, because I said he had never actually sold the same. Carcino's like, this dude never sold the same after his fight with Zeno. He's getting this because he's got his stuff playing on TV and stuff now. Because they're trying to put him at a certain spot. So when he dies, they're going to be like, he's the man. He's the greatest of all time. And they're going to like, look at all his record sales. But that record sales have never meant anything. When LL Cool J was the highest seller of all time, they didn't say that he was the best rapper because of his record sales. Master P is one of the highest sellers of all time. Nobody calls Master P the greatest of all time, though. Nobody in their right mind would say that. The same thing with MC Hammer. The same thing with Vanilla Ice. The same thing with Snoop Dogg. And plenty of other rappers. That's not an argument. Another point Blaze Wright is making is that there's been a bunch of rappers like, what is it? Game, Kanye, and other people that's praised him and talked about how he's elevated the rap game. While I don't necessarily hear him, talking about any of these guys talking about he elevated the rap game, they do give him praise. As I've been saying, these people are signed artists. As much as Kanye wanted to be on his, I'm a boss, I'm buying my own land and whatnot, he's still on a label. So he's going to sell the soap regardless. And when I made the argument that, hey, well, DMX dissed him, and there's been some other rappers that dissed him, his argument was, well, I never actually mentioned these guys' name because I said DMX and some other people. Well, I thought you was listing people who have a great reputation in rap, because if you're only talking about The Game, Kanye West, and a couple of other guys, well, then there's a whole big rap industry. If that's all you got, then I don't think that that's really an argument. I thought he was actually, when he was saying this, he was listing a bunch of people who was influential, and a bunch of people who are influential said the opposite. Kool Moe Dee, as I said before, said the opposite, that he's not all that good. Anybody that wants a record deal will say that he's good. And he makes an argument, well, what about Nas? Nas was beefing with M in the past, and Nas still got his career. He's still pretty internationally known. Okay, the reason why that is because he's a gatekeeper. And not just a hip hop gatekeeper. He is an industry gatekeeper. That's why he's still where he's at. Nas, Jay-Z, and Diddy, those guys are gatekeepers. Which is why, despite the fact that M feels that not Nas, but Diddy is dissing him by having MGK and not quite shutting him up, the industry is not necessarily doing anything about Diddy because Diddy is a gatekeeper. And that's a reason. So you got to give me somebody that's not a gatekeeper. Not to mention, if you give me one person, that's really the exception to the rule. That's not the rule. Also, Nas is, while he might be a mainstream artist, he might be an artist signed to a label, he's only getting popularity now. Nas was very much like Rakim in terms of not really being a big selling artist like that. I mean, does he have a diamond record? I don't think he has a diamond record, and if he does, that's something that's come about lately. Another argument is, well, if you do a feature with him, it does wonders for your career, even if you're not white, because he says, well, Cardi B is one of the most popular artists. Cardi B is a popular artist not because she worked with M, it's because her team was good and she was being pushed to the top. That's what's going on. I mean, what that Eminem feature? What Eminem feature did she do that people remember like that? I know that she did what you call it, the WAP thing, and WAP pushed her career. I know her mostly off of WAP, not off of an Eminem feature. Matter of fact, I didn't know she did an Eminem feature, so that tells you what that did for her career. Besides, even when you want to talk about, oh, well, they did a bunch of people listened to that video, how does that translate? Look at Royce the 5'9". That's also been Benzino's argument. When he does features with Eminem, you got thousands of people watching him. When you don't have him with Eminem, a lot of people come off the table. Yes, he still has a lot of people, but he didn't get those people because of M. He got that on his own, and then when M does a feature, M's people come and look at that feature, and then they go on about their business. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The video's wrapping up. Now, if you heard my voice slurring, my speech slurring and whatnot, I had some needles stuck into my mouth. It was some paralyzing stuff. It was on the right side of my mouth. I couldn't feel the right side of my mouth, bruh. And when I was actually speaking, I realized I couldn't move it properly. I was looking in the mirror. I'm like, the muscles aren't moving. Had me a little scared for a minute. I was like, oh gosh. And it took hours before it came off, bruh. So that's what's going on. If you can't understand, as I said, I was been to the hospital. I've been going through some pain. Now, as you could probably hear, that would happen on Sunday. It's now obviously past that, but hey, as I also said then, my head was hurting and whatnot. So I was sick. I am now better. So I'm able to give the response now that I'm better. Now, the guys who want to listen to more of this, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Since I am better, well, I actually have to go back to the doctor soon, but I will be coming back sooner or later to start uploading again regularly. And I also know that the dude said that, yeah, if he wants to not do, he doesn't really interested in going back and forth like that about this. If you want to talk online, make it do a live stream about this, we can do it. Well, Benzino's off up to it. I'm up to it too. But I'm telling you now though, I won't be able to do that on YouTube. I might be able to do this on Clubhouse because I downloaded Clubhouse. They made me fill up an application or whatever. I halfway did the application, and I walked away. When I came back, it let me in it. So I probably won't be able to start a chat room. I'll probably have to do the application over again. Or we can do this on Bigo, because I already have a Bigo account for that up and running. So we could have a conversation there. I can't live stream on YouTube right now. I don't even have that dude set up, as you could see look at my YouTube videos and see. I can't do that. But yeah, that's it. Viewers, please like, comment, share, subscribe. It helps the channel. And this is DJJ from channel Which Day Today, signing out. Oh yeah. And that clips that I was playing in the beginning, that's from TBA, also known as the Black Authority, for anybody that wants to, listen to that in full, because those were just clips. I wanted to get the clips from Lashid For You, but the clips from Lashid For You was an hour long, despite me even cutting the stuff up to putting up some of the most important parts. So I was like, nah, I can't even do this, bruh. But you know what? I'm going to play a trailer to that, to something that she was promoting in there that also talked about and how this dude was like an industry guy pushed through. And I also mentioned in the video about me doing a video about M destroying the industry. That will be at the end of the video too, as one of the suggested things. I'm gonna have my playlist M versus the World, as well as that video.
Say you want to collaborate with, man. You think you might hook up Lauryn Hill, KRS-One, Public Enemy, any of those
First
people?
word you said was a dirty word to me.
Really, Lauryn?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of stuff about her and how she is, and how she is towards white people, and I've heard a lot of things that, she's racist, she's this and that, and I can't prove it, but I've heard a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of controversy surrounding that. So if it's like that, I don't even want to get down like that.
So if Eminem's that sensitive over what Lauryn Hill had said, or what he thought she had said about or against white people, how do you think Eminem would really, or how he really feels about Tupac Shakur, who he's been writing? Now, he was so affected just by the idea that Lauryn Hill may not like white people. And in my opinion, she's never really even came off as all that militant. And that's not to say that she's not pro-black. I'm just saying that she's never came off as anti-white in any way, if you understand what I'm saying. But he was so affected, going as far as calling her a dirty word. And a dirty word could mean bitch or whore. But he said dirty word, not just a bad word, but a dirty word, like a whore. Now, if it upset him to this degree, how do you think Eminem really feel about Tupac Shakur? And Paris had to be like the most militant pro-black rapper I had ever heard, who I would expect white people to hate. But he's now wearing a t-shirt with Paris's face on it, as if he has this respect for Paris. And understand that Eminem said this about Lauryn Hill after he became famous, after he supposedly matured from the way he supposedly was, when he had made rap songs calling black people racist, derogatory names. But just based off of what he thought he may have heard, he felt the need to not even say her name. He just sees her as a dirty word. Or maybe it's just the idea that black females don't.
And this is the untold story of Detroit hip-hop. It's amazing how it works. Detroit, one of the blackest cities in America, 85% black, but also known as the white rap capital of the world. How does the biggest rap acts such as Kid Rock, Eminem, and ICP sit on top of all the very talented black artists in the city and its hip-hop history? It's because each of these artists had help from black artists, and somebody refuses to tell the truth, or something or somebody pulls them in. Now the truth will be told. What really happened and what is still happening in the rap city of Detroit. Groundbreaking, never seen before Eminem footage. And by the way, there are no trailer parks in the city of Detroit. Rap battles, It is said that rapping for a crowd of blacks trying not to get booed is not battling. Exclusive footage, one of Proof's last camera interviews. Once and for all, for the first time ever told, hear what happened the night Proof got killed from the person he was with when the shooting happened.
A lot of people know that I was there the night Proof was killed. Like, this is my dog. We was running heavy.
$50,000 24-karat gold casket signed off the freeway after Proof's death. But was Proof paid fairly? We will find out if there's such a thing in his estate or his children and family. Who was really the best friend of Proof? Grammy Award-winning producer DJ Head produced mega hits for Eminem and even a classic track for Eminem and Jay-Z, Renegades. Who stole credit for the Renegades track? Hear how the powers that be will give you drum programming credit for a record that you produced. Plus, the jaw-dropping interview from Detroit hip-hop staple Champtown that Barbara Walters would die for.
This is how it is, and this is how it went down. You know, he just told you all of that backstory on all of those things, and pretty much, you know, we, I think it's like you have to start so far back just to get you up to, you know, what's cracking right now, why things are the way they are. Pretty much, Proof went with D12. He left our group, went with D12, right? That whole thing is a ride, went a ride, ain't shit, ain't nobody getting nothing, him fucking his friends around, it's all fucked up. P says, fuck that, he goes to do his own thing.
Yep.
He's not signed to Shady as a solo artist.
Never was.
Wait, Proof was never signed.
Never.
Never signed to Shady as a solo artist.
Never.
He had to go do his own thing because it just wasn't going to happen in-house. So he went to handle his own business. He got tired of the situation he was in. He came and got his boys again.
Right.
And was like, fuck that.
Mm-hmm.
Man, people don't know that. Just let me interject for 1 second.
Hey,
Let me interject for 1 second. You guys know how the official story goes, right? You know, Eminem, Proof, best buddies, you know, all of that.
Hey,
that's the official story, man.
Listen, I'm going to tell you how Hollywood it is. At Proof's funeral, right? At Proof's funeral, they had me and Mud get up to talk. When me and Mud got up, everybody went up there to talk, but when me and Mud got up there, they clapped.
Everybody started clapping like...
Because they knew it was the only 2 real friends he had.
Only 2 real friends he had, man. On some real shit, like, yo boy for real. Tell you when you fucking up. Stop you when you fucking up. Or
they started clapping. We were like, wow.
Clapping and crying, actually.
This is a funeral.
Wow.
Yeah, powerful stuff, man.
Now let me tell you how Hollywood it is. Let me tell you how Hollywood it is.
Tell me.
These crazy niggas gave him an achievement award.
A plaque.
A plaque at a funeral. I wanted to get up there and slap the shit out of those motherfuckers, man. I'm like, dude, my man.
Wait. I didn't hear you right. You said they gave him a plaque at the funeral?
You heard it right.
You heard it right. They gave him an achievement award of some bullshit. I'm standing there staring at him like, this shit is gonna go Hollywood while my man is in this box.
Non-stop action. Non-stop.
My man is in this box, never for me to see him again.
And M getting awards.
Eminem getting
an award in this
award.
What's the good word?
They gave this guy an award. I'm like, you know what? The man, I usually wouldn't say no shit like this, but I'm like, the man strikes again.
First off, don't come back with that whack shit, bitch. Hit the trailer park trash like Kim and your kid, that's all you know. So how you gonna handle a pro? It's a methadone. Take that and pass out cold. Matter of fact, pop deuce, you probably pop these 2. Don't get bizarre, pop 2 like when that boy pop Proof, I got you. Shit, this is all I do. And you pick booth fights but never come through. So bitch move me, shit you issues me. Is you losing your scruples from misusing me? Excuse me. You the one picking on my wife now, but wouldn't show to get served on an episode of Wildin' Out, calling me out. You done picked the wrong dead, baby. Haley up to get some dead, maybe, baby. How does that sound now? Blow up my shit, put your drugs back down. Mariah's picture shrine next to mine's fine. Leading off with sunblock SPF 99. I don't know, guess this guy's not right. I mean, it's been 5 years since he last rhymed. Don't let your little breakup tear your ass apart, cause morphine can't really heal a broken